Okay, good, good. How are you doing on a Friday afternoon for you?
Well, Friday afternoon, and it's my wife and daughter's birthday today.
Wow.
So I'm in for some rough weather when I get back.
So hopefully after this session, you can go and celebrate, no? Is that a plan?
Yes, but my daughter turns 18 today, so I'm sure she has different ideas. And
How old is your daughter? I didn't hear that. How old is she?
she's turning 18 today.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, she got other plans, nothing to do with you guys.
Yeah, so I'm sure the only thing she's expecting out of me this year is birthday expense.
Okay, so 18 is a big, 18 is a big thing. So I guess it must be a family celebration and then a friend celebration, I guess, separate.
I think the friend celebration is today. The family celebration is tomorrow.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course, okay, right. Okay, that's okay. So maybe that's why you're more relaxed right now doing this work because you don't have to be elsewhere.
And a fact of family economics: no matter who celebrates, I pay.
I'm sure with the kids. My daughter, I have a daughter who's much older, in her 20s. That same thing happens. But and of course nowadays it happens more that they keep on borrowing, but not borrowing, asking until late in their 20s. But at some point they will prosper, and payback time will come. Obviously, they will offer to pay back. Not payback is the wrong word, but it'll be their turn to support.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, good, excellent. Congratulations to you on that milestone for your daughter. It must be a milestone for you and your wife as well. No, 18 is when she's in India as well. It's technically being an adult, right?
Oh yes, oh absolutely yes.
You can
but by the time you come, she's our second child, so you're kind of used to it. So you've been through it once.
But 18, so in England, it differs in the US. In England, 18 is when you can do lots of things you couldn't do at 16. I think you can kind of driving license, get a drink from pub. 18, I think it's 18, not 16. I think the US is 21 for some things. What's India's? 18 when you can do most things, all things?
18. 18 is when you get the right to vote. 18 is when you can have your first drink, though I'm sure they don't wait until 18.
Yeah, but no, the same thing in England. I think obviously England as well, the vote as well. There's a big debate about reducing the voting age to 16. It's not happened, but they were discussing that in the Brexit context. We should do it again. It's age, voting, driving license, drink, 3 key things. That's right. But also technically, I think it's also under law, you're not adult, and therefore anything by law is talk to you directly, and parents can't come in. But before 18, I think then you are still in the law child, and the parents have rights.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same here.
Same in India, I guess. Yeah.
Though I believe we have laws around the earliest age when somebody can get married. And
now, by law what is 18 now?
It used to be 18. I may be wrong, but I believe it's been increased to 21 now. At least for women.
Wow, no. With this government has raised it 21.
Yes. And I believe the reason for that is, to prevent young women from getting into forced marriages or getting married against their will.
But why not keep that at 18 when everyone is an adult and you make your choices as an adult? Definitely not below 18. I agree with that.
It used to be 18. I believe the motivation for that is by normal standards, you complete your undergraduation at 21, right? 18 is when you get out of high school. So I think it's been done from the point of view of giving women the opportunity to complete their education as opposed to getting married possibly against their choice.
Someone is raising a hand, I think. At least I can see. Is it raising? No, maybe not.
There was a raised hand, but
there was, right? You see that saying Robin Race.
I assumed it was a mistake because we haven't gone that far into the proceedings for somebody to raise their hand yet.
Right. Oh yeah, Ronald Robbie. He's on the attendees list. So I see. Okay, and they're not. Are they with us? Are they hearing what we're saying or not yet?
I'm sure they are.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No, I just learned. So yesterday, India first prime minister with that background, quite something. You know,
President.
It's unprecedented, right? It's first time a woman, all the from that. I mean, her background. She's from the tribal community. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the president, not the prime minister.
The president. Yeah, president. I mean, president. Yeah. So this is quite something, and it's you know, I was trying to process the pros and cons of what's going on in India and how to interpret.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's part of the government party, right? She's part of BJP.
But, you know, can't be now that she's the president.
Can't be now.
But yes, you're right. That's the background.
So I guess that may have helped in some way. But it's interesting. How are the news taking this? What are the pluses and minuses you're hearing locally on the ground? You know, it's one thing to hear it from a distance.
No, it's supposed to be a seminal political event. She's not the first woman president, but first from a tribal background.
Right. It's not the word. Yeah, that's right. It's the fact that she's from a tribal background. That's first.
And a woman of very strong character, because in the space between 2009 and 2014, she lost her husband, 2 sons, a brother, and her mother.
Wow. What resilience to still fight back and want to do something.
Absolutely.
That's quite amazing person. And then in India, she must be quite a formidable person.
A very strong character, resilient character.
From Orissa, is that right? From Orissa?
That is correct, from Orissa.
Right, very momentous occasion for India. And I wonder how. What's any comment from the Prime Minister on her election? He might have been he would have been supporting her.
Oh yes, you know, you would expect bipartisan support or all party support, but there is the process of an election, and you know, the president is normally chosen. Happens to be a choice of the party in power, or at least those who have majority in both houses of parliament. But we have a tradition of choosing a president who is, it is assured more or less, will be representative of the aspirations of the entire country. So I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, okay, good, definitely. I mean, hopefully, I'm sure she will, as all presidents before have, become independent.
Yeah,
and taking that role. The office of the president is independent, non-partisan. Yeah. Okay, so how are we doing for time?
Yeah, I think we have about 28 attendees. We can wait, or I suggest we get started because we are already 2 minutes.
No, we can wait 5. I'm happy to wait 5 minutes.
Okay, let's do that.
And I was asking, I think you weren't on the email exchange. I was asking Nathalie, you know, the composition of the participants this afternoon. So I have a sense of that. So I know who my audience is as well. And yeah, let's see whether we can get these 27 interested in. But yeah, I'm happy to wait. But I know that it's a Friday afternoon and we have when do the new cohort begin? I think you may have told me mid-August. When do
17th of August?
17th of August. Yeah. They start and they'll come in person and you're providing, you meaning the academy is providing, as we speak, I guess, infrastructure for them to settle in, pre-registration, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, these days that's not much of a problem because, you know, the information is provided online. So we'll have a few days of orientation where we get the students into the classroom, get them familiarized with the academy, the various processes. Maybe I'll definitely be addressing them. Dr. Dabke will address them. A couple of faculty members will come in. So the first 3 days of orientation is about getting the students familiar with the academy, the surroundings, with each other, introduce them to the program, and then we start off in earnest.
Did we replace Karan, or we didn't need to replace a Karan?
Well, we have distributed the responsibilities, but we are always on the lookout for somebody, who will do.
Okay, so you distributed responsibility.
Yes.
All right, yeah. So that's what I wasn't sure whether you had found a replacement or maybe had done what you just said, which is distribute.
Yeah. So if Karan were here, then it would be him here, I guess, talking to you, and it would be him running the orientation, which me and Dr. Dabke will do. And then there's the whole placement program, for which we have actually gotten one of our ex-students to run the placements. So we are working around his departure, and a few things need to be brought in place. Yeah, some of your students this year, I already see them joining. Shradesh, Satviki, Sakshi. So they'll be in your class.
Someone is asking to allow some of them, Dr. KL Shastri's, I think he's got allowed to talk. Again, no, he's not. No, maybe I'm reading. No. I thought there might be something against his name. No, that's fine. You're saying some of these you can recognize are already signed up, and I'll be seeing them later on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Nice.
So I think we can get started now. I'll do the introductions and hand over to you.
Okay.
Okay. So here goes. So a warm welcome to all our attendees. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Amlesh Kanekar. I am the Director of Academic Programs at the Meghnad Desai Academy of Economics. And it's my honor and pleasure to introduce my good friend and now soon to be my colleague, Dr. Abhinay Muthoo. I consider Abhinay to be one of the most eminent academicians of our time, especially in the field of economics. He's a PhD in economics from Cambridge. He spent 14 years at the University of Warwick, 15 years at the University of Essex, and in fact, he was the Dean of Warwick in London, and his detailed introduction has anyways reached you all on mail, but it just gives me tremendous honor and pleasure to welcome Abhinay, and he's going to be talking to you all on the impact of technology on the world as we know today, especially in the areas of economy, on society in general, and politics. So, Abhinay will speak to us on this topic today. And of course, we'll have time later for questions and answers. So if you have any questions and answers, please type them in the QA box or in the chat box, and I am happy to collate them and moderate them. So here goes, Abhinay. It's over to you. So great to see you here.
Thank you, Amlesh, for that introduction, that generous introduction. Real pleasure to be here. Warm welcome to all of you. I can see there are about 33, 32 of you. Warm welcome to all of you. I'm speaking right now from Rome, Italy. So I know, so it's 1:30 here, 1:37. And of course, it's late afternoon where you are in India. I'm presuming all of you are in India. So warm welcome on this late Friday afternoon. What I want to do is, I'm basically, by the way, I'm visiting Rome. My parents live here. I'm based in London. In case you're wondering, and you looked me up and said, he's London-based. I am London-based. I'm visiting my parents who live in Rome for now. So what I want to do, we always have limited time. I want to spend probably 15, 20 minutes offering some remarks on this theme of the role of technology on the economy, on society, on politics, on everything. And I'll tell you why everything in a minute. And then, as Amlesh said, we will have time, at least a good 15, 20 minutes for you to ask questions, which Amlesh would moderate And that way of engagement through your questions is also a continuation of the discussion on this theme. I will also, by the way, I'll also spend about 5 minutes at some point. I'll ask Amlesh the right juncture to talk about higher education, master's degrees in the UK and the US or elsewhere. And the reason why I want to talk about that, I want to mention briefly, and you can ask questions, this is different from the topic, is how useful, how great would be doing the PG course at the academy, at the Meghnad Desai Academy, either in economics or data science. How will that benefit or make it easier in a relative sense to go on to do a master's in the UK or US? So I'll spend a few minutes on that towards the end. That's a different subject. I can imagine it's an important subject for some of you. And of course, I know a lot about that, having spent around 35, 37 years in many universities in the UK, and also I'm aware of universities in the US. So just to tell you the program for this hour we have, roughly speaking, together. Let me step back now. I know that many of you are coming from different backgrounds, nothing to do with economics. So I am aware of that. But I know also some of you may have done or will have done economics. I'm aware that some of you are going to start this year on the PG, have already signed up. That's fantastic. You will be seeing me in person to teach. I'm going to be teaching the micro course later this year. I know some of you are thinking of whether or not to join this year. I would encourage you, and hopefully by the time this hour is up, you will be quickly wanting to sign up for this PG course this year. And I know some of you are actually in your final year and are thinking of whether to join for the PG course next year. And hopefully this will be helpful. And Amlesh will say more about how you can continue to engage with the academy during the year to make your decisions for next year, for those of you in that shoes. So with that, by way of context, one of the things I was thinking about, what sort of remarks to offer. So let me say the following thing, just to anchor the role of technology in terms of humanity. One of the big questions, one of the big questions that every citizen on the planet wants an answer to is what makes some countries prosper and rich and great in many ways, like the United States in many ways is, compared to other countries, which is not the case. I won't mention names, but many countries, for example, in Africa, Latin America, Asia, are way behind, at least in economic prosperity. So the big question is, what's going on here? What are the factors that drive this difference in the wealth of nations? It's one of the most important questions, certainly for economics, for most social sciences. But even if you end up becoming a data scientist in Google, you're interested in this question. It affects you indirectly, if not directly. And one of the big things that economists have discovered, and many Nobel Prizes have given for this discovery over the last 70 years, is that one of the key engines of growth, of economic growth, has to do with technology. And you can see it's obvious. Technology impacts on productivity, on how productive you are as a worker, as a country. So the role of technology in economic growth is fundamental. It's not the only factor, but it's an important factor. And the US leads, United States is a $20 trillion economy every year. The GDP, that how much the US produces, 20 trillion US dollars of stuff, of goods and services the US produces, compared to, for example, India is about 2 trillion US dollars per year. So the US is 10 times more prosperous in that economic sense. And the driver is technology. For example, just as an example to illustrate, over the last 100 years, all the technological innovations have happened in the US. You know, Bill Gates, we all know Bill Gates in terms of computers, software, all invented in the US Silicon Valley. And after that, Steve Jobs with his mobile phone, and so on and so forth. And that is the reason I'm just pointing out, giving you a simple explanation of why the United States is the world leader by a huge margin. Even China's economy, only 13 trillion US dollars. The United States will stay the economic powerhouse for the rest of this century. Absolutely, it will. Maybe in about 60 years from now, China might overtake it. We don't know. Maybe India will overtake it in 60 years' time, be a world leader. Who knows? But technology is a key factor. That much economists have established through different research. And we will find out more of the role of technology on economic growth, the linkages, the mechanisms, when you do the course at the academy, for example, especially in the macroeconomics part of the course. Of course, the implication, by the way, as you're thinking about it, implication of that, say for India, right? All of you are Indians, from what I know, all of the audience, from Indians, it means that we need to create more entrepreneurs who can create new technology. India at the moment is at the forefront, a leader in providing technological services. We are fantastic out there providing IT services to the world, but we are not the inventors. So maybe amongst you, one day, one of you might be the next Steve Jobs of India, equivalent. And that's where you then have the upper hand. In terms of politics, just look at what's happening in terms of what's happening to politics the last 15 years. Or the last 15 years, for example, just to be specific, Twitter. I don't know how many of you are on Twitter. Twitter has become a powerful platform via which politicians communicate directly with the citizens for their vote, for their influence. I mean, I think Prime Minister Modi has I didn't see it last time, but last time I saw it a few months ago, about 100 million followers Prime Minister Modi has on his Twitter, and he's tweeting regularly. Elon Musk tweets regularly. Lots of prime ministers and presidents are tweeting and regularly tweeting about their message, communicating through the use of that platform. The reason why Elon Musk, you may not know, wanted to buy Twitter, he realizes Twitter, that technology, is powerful in shaping people's values, people's preferences, can influence who has political power, who has economic power. So I'm just giving you a little peep, little showing you the power of technology on where power resides. So again, go back to your home and ask yourself the question. Here's a little research project. Yeah, look at the Twitter feeds of some of the top people in India, the Prime Minister Modi, the industrialists, and so on and so forth. You will see they're tweeting regularly in order to influence their audiences. Technology is disrupting how we are living. I mean, just look at what happened during COVID. Let me use the COVID example to illustrate how it's impacting. And we ain't seen anything yet, by the way, but how it's impacting how we live. Well, COVID brought up technology, brought up how we work from home, study from home. Right now, I'm doing this online. So the last 2 years, due to COVID, it accelerated these online platforms from Zoom. We are on Zoom right now. Zoom. I mean, I never heard of Zoom before COVID. Had you? I don't think so. Zoom has become a kind of, has increased its value, I don't know, 10, 400, a huge number fold over the last 3 years. And this technology, we'll see better technologies of connecting online. But that is where society is moving. In England, for example, I know what's happening in India. A lot of people are talking about, look, this is now the new state of affairs, the new equilibrium, whereby I'm not going to office every day. I'm going to go 3 days, and 2 days I'm going to work from home. So already technology is providing the opportunity, and it's a two-way process in that what people want. Ultimately, it's about what people want, and technology will move in that direction. So already how we live, how we work, how we study. By the way, the world of studying is going to be disrupted as well. My central message, if you're thinking about what is Abhinay trying to tell us, and you may already know this, but if you can't see the big picture, is that we are going through, as you know, the fourth industrial revolution, the digital revolution, where AI technologies, machine learning and this and that are already in a small way affecting our lives. But I want to make the point that this is just the beginning. And unlike the previous industrial revolutions, you know, the third, which was last century, the second, when steam and power and so on, this digital technology revolution that we are going through is going to disrupt big time in a way that humankind has not ever seen before. And the speed, one is the magnitude of this disruption is going to be colossal compared to the previous one, last century, when computers were introduced. Secondly, the speed of change is just I don't know how to even describe it. You know, the last 5 years, the disruptions in different technologies over the last 5 years, it's just been incredible compared to the disruption of technology the previous 20 years. So one thing, whatever you do in your life, whether you're an economist or a data scientist or a manager, you will want to be aware of what's happening to your work life and so on, how technology is disrupting. One of the implications, by the way, again, the implications of this stuff for you is you need to be resilient, because this means we're in a world for the next 20, 30, 40 years where, as the famous philosopher, economist Joseph Schumpeter coined the term creative destruction. Creative destruction. Those two words were coined by this famous Austrian economist in the 1920s. And right now, those forces of creative destruction have been unleashed by this technological revolution we're going through. And the creative destruction bit is that some stuff out there is going to be destroyed. For example, low skills, low pay jobs are already being destroyed and being automated. It's going to see more of that. We will require high skill jobs. High skills will be required, and we'll see more and more of that happening. So one of the implications for you guys as you're starting out your lives is that you want to keep on learning. You need to have a mindset that's constantly learning, that is inquisitive, that's curious, because the disruption that's happening is happening every year, every 2 years at enormous speed. I'd have no idea, and neither does Elon Musk. Don't email him, don't tweet him. He does not know either when this is going to come to an end, when we'll settle down. I think it's going to be towards the end of the century, if humanity is still around. Let me just make one more, I'm looking at the time. One of the points I want to make in terms of a different angle, one of the worries we have, or some people have, about especially the AI technologies that are being developed by Google and others, is whether they will transform the human being. I don't know how many of you are thinking about this, but one of the worries that some people are raising out there in the debate on the power of and greatness and goodness of technology is the bad stuff technology can do. Of course, the Twitter is doing some bad stuff in different ways and in terms of politics and so on. But what we are more fundamentally worried about is whether at some point towards the end of the century, I mean, that's sort of time frame we're talking about, whether the robots will take over kind of stuff, right? You know, that's sort of scary scenario. You know, at some point we make a robot, a machine that's more intelligent than human beings and stronger. That's it. Is that the wiping out of human race? But more, just to step back from that scenario, which I think is not going to happen. We will take the plug out. You know, we will take the plug out before that happens, I think. What I'm more worried about is whether we might end up in such a situation organically. What do I mean organically? Basically, and Elon Musk, I think, is already talking about it. You know, he's one of the leaders in technological revolution. He talks about chips that can be put into around your brain, and you can, and that chip will. The goodness is that chip will allow you to be, you know, more intelligent, make better decisions about your life and so on. But you worry that once you go to that kind of technology of a chip controlling my thought processes, Isn't that one step away from, crazy maniac dictators controlling my mind and so on and so forth? Yeah, that's what the worry is. So in terms of that scary scenario, that's something that you youngsters need to worry about more than me. I'm a 50-plus-year-old man. I don't need to worry about this stuff. You need to worry about this stuff because this stuff is not here, but may become a relevant issue in the next 20 years. The worry is that you don't want to stop technological development, because technological development, there are billions of people, and in India, hundreds of millions of people who are still not getting proper food, not getting proper access to medical health care. The only way to get proper health care, proper food, is by getting them to use of technology, whether it's in agriculture. Take agriculture, for example, right? The use of drones, use of drones in agriculture is already there. But we want more sophisticated technologies to improve productivity, so we can grow stuff 4 times, 5 times a year. So technology is really important to eliminate poverty in the next 20, 30 years. We've got a climate crisis. A solution is going to be technology. How do we get to carbon net zero? We get to net zero by technology is going to help us do that. So the power of technology in doing good and preserving and getting humanity to stay and be fantastic is key. But there is the downside. At some point, who's controlling where we go? No one is controlling where we go. Not a single human being on this planet. Not the president of the United States, not the prime minister of India, not Elon Musk. No one is in control on which direction technology goes. It's driven by young entrepreneurs in an uncontrolled, there is of course regulation, but uncontrolled way. All the new technology that about, Steve Jobs, Microsoft, Gates, they all did it as young kids in a garage, backdoor garage. No one told them to go and do it. They just wanted to do it. Let me pause here. I think I've spoken for about 15 minutes. I'm looking at my time. It's coming up to 1 o'clock. Let me pause here and see whether there are questions. I'm going to pass it on to you whether there are questions. I can come back. As I said, I want to continue engaging through the question mechanism, which is more productive in terms of what people are interested in. So let me pause it. Over to you, Kamlesh.
Yeah, I think the students are still warming up, so I don't see any question. But I do have a question of my own.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think what you said was right. A lot of things made sense. And the one thing you said is that lower jobs with lower skill levels will go away. Makes sense. But then that takes me to what you said. Why do some nations become wealthy and stay wealthier? So I think the natural conclusion from this is those countries that invest in education at the lowest level, primary education, technology education, STEM education, those are the ones that are going to be the winners. Is that a fair statement to make?
Absolutely, absolutely. So just what you said is spot on and correct. All I was doing in this few remarks were to emphasize the role and importance of technology. The role of education is critical. We call it human capital. Human capital is knowledge, education, is another of the 2 or 3 central components of growth, of prosperity. And the reason why India is where it is, while America is where it is, education. We need to get our tens of millions, hundreds of million youngsters educated, and with the new economic education policy, the national NEP, the National Education Policy 2020, last 2 years ago, that is providing an ambitious framework. I mean, it doesn't have any kind of how you get there, but it's providing an ambitious vision of Indian education for the next 20 years. No, the education is key, and I'm really, by the way, I'm really pleased to be associated with Academy. You guys are also leading already in what is in that document, the new education policy. So let me. Are you seeing any questions?
Not yet.
Okay, I hope people are not saying what's he talking about. But do feel free to ask me questions. Okay, and I'm not a foreigner, by the way. I'm an Indian as well. My name gives it away, I hope. Let me just while you guys are thinking about this really big topic, it's a big topic, and I want to just offer a few remarks from different angles. I wanted to cover the broader angles about the good and the negative effects of technology. There are lots of projects here. We don't have answers, by the way. I'm asking more questions. One of the things is that people are blaming technology, in particular social media technology, Twitter in particular, for some of the bad stuff happening around the world in terms of politics, governance, and so on. But at the same time, one of the things about that is relevant in terms of those who want to do economics and social sciences about coordination. Coordination, people wanting to communicate with each other. And when we had the North African uprising, Arab Springs about 10 years ago, it happened because people coordinated to Twitter. They'd email each other on Twitter, on Facebook, and say, look, I'm going to be there at the town center, and I'm going to be protests, so you turn up as well. Don't worry, you won't be on your own. So it's a force for good as well in allowing people to communicate and coordinate protest activity together. That's why in some countries they ban Twitter, they ban Facebook, because it is a mechanism to coordinate. And coordination is an important part. Supply chains, for example, another big area of disruption that, a lot of you have heard of Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Everyone knows that. I mean, when Jeff Bezos came along with Amazon and online bookshops, I recall, this was like in 1980s, people laughed at this guy. What is this guy doing, selling books online? And it wasn't about books. It was about technology. It was about supply chains. If someone tells me who created this kind of just-in-time technology supply, Bezos with Amazon is the architect of what happened in the 90s then there was a disruption of globalization and supply chains. And your Apple, your iPhone is made in 8 different countries because different parts made different countries and components made in different countries. And the idea of that will be a good way, an efficient way to produce iPhones in a cheaper way so that everyone can have it. Was Bezos, again, a guy who is thinking about technology and disruption. So there are questions coming. I was going to come to HE as you guys are thinking about questions. Let me just say a few remarks on that. So this is now, I'm going to make a few remarks about the academy and beyond the academy. So one of the things, I have been associated with the academy when it began because it's founded by Lord Meghnad Desai, top economist, and his students and friends about 8 years ago. And the academy already from the start is probably, I want to say the only, but let me say definitely one of the top places in India that is informed by the best education systems in the UK. And it's informed by the best education in the UK because it is informed by people who were part of the UK education system, including and especially Lord Desai himself, who taught for, in the London School of Economics for about, 40 years. I happen to be one of his students. And so the academy has already the design of the courses, of the curriculum is very much informed by the best of the best from outside India as well, especially in social sciences, data science, and so on. And one of the things it offers, as you all know, are these 1-year postgraduate diploma courses, certificate courses, diploma courses. And what I'm quite clear, I've been talking to colleagues, including Amlesh, about this, and I'll talk more about that on the ground when I'm in Mumbai later on this year, that this will provide mechanisms to make it easy for those of you who are interested to go to the UK, the US for doing the second year, if you like, a master's program in data science, economics, finance, this and that. And so that I can tell you for sure from my experience that this curriculum provides that opportunity. In case, I wanted to bring this up, in case some of you who are here listening are wondering about that question. So in case you want to raise that with me, to do with that, I just want to make that point as well. So we got some questions now. Amlesh, I think we got some questions.
Yeah. So I think Chaitanya Khandelwal is asking a really thoughtful question to the extent that I am going to allow him to talk.
Okay.
If he can, otherwise I'll read it out. So Chaitanya, go ahead, ask your question.
You're muted, Olivia.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
I can hear you now. I can hear you. I'm sure you were muted earlier on, but you're not anymore. Go ahead.
Perfect. Sir, so what I want to ask is, sir, recently we saw the World Population Day, and the estimates are that by the end of century, the world population will cross 10
billion.
Yeah, I think 10 billion. Exactly. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So my question is that tech like is reducing the jobs by like such a like huge pace, and people like Elon Musk say that like in future tech will need jobs to be more creative, like for people to do so. But my question is like, will there be enough creative jobs like for people? Because the number of people is just like so huge, like it's 10 billion for God's sake. So like, will there be enough jobs? Because I think that like what we'll eventually like we'll have to do is we'll have to get some we'll have to get some like arrangement where we have to like have mm, minimum incomes support for people, uh, irrespective of they're working or not, because there just won't be enough work, because tech will have like automated or handle everything apart from the jobs that require like huge amounts
So
of
Chaitanya,
creativity.
I think it's a great question. What you're essentially asking is that if you juxtapose the growth of technology and all the good things we foresee with the growth in population, are we headed for mass unemployment, so on and so forth?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, that's a great question, but let me tell you straight away, no way, Jose. Let me tell you why. History has told us evidence. So that is a legitimate question to ask. A lot of people, a lot of my students in England asked that question. It's a natural question to ask. No way. Why no way? So first of all, just to make the point about the population point. By the way, Elon Musk is worried about not enough people on the planet. Just by the way, I don't know whether you follow his tweets. He's worried. We're not. We'll do the world. I don't know where you saw the 10 billion figure. We're worried about the population is declining in China, in the West, even in India. By the way, is tapering. So just want to say there may not be enough people to run these technologies. But let me park that question about population growth for now. That's another interesting question about fertility and whether we're not producing enough children and so on across the world. This question is, the answer is no, because what automation is, first two reasons. One is automation, yes, is automating lots of jobs out there. At some point we won't need so many accountants, so many lawyers, and so on. A lot of jobs can be automated, and therefore there'll be fewer jobs in the industries that currently exist. But there will be much more new jobs that you can't, or I can't, or anyone can't at this point in time even imagine what those jobs will be. And you might say, well, Abhinay, how do you know? It has happened before throughout human history. Yeah, you go back to the Industrial Revolution in England 150 years ago, and they said, you're going to destroy agriculture here. Yeah, you're going to automate agriculture. Therefore, all the people on the farms, where are they going to work? We created factories, and there were jobs galore. The technological disruption will destroy lots of current jobs, or at least diminish. As I said, accountants is a good example. That over the next 20 years, I see that if right now we need 100 accountants, in 20 years, 10 will be enough. The rest of the accountants' tasks, jobs will be automated, be more efficient. The 10 accountants will oversee the computers and the robots who are doing the accounting. Okay? A different kind of accountant who has the ability to oversee an accountant with data science skills, if you like. Yeah. And in a similar way, the same thing will happen in other areas, but that's just pointing out existing sectors. There'll be new jobs. For example, I'm not being frivolous. Who's going to control the robots? We'll require lots of people controlling the robots and different levels. Knowledge, what is key is that knowledge is going to become more important. That's why high skills. So what high skills of different types of skills, the ability to leadership skills are really important. And therefore, I'm not worried at all, given history, given the argument about new jobs being created, will be created. I'm not worried at all about there won't be enough jobs. Now, the second part of the answer to your question is, I know it's not happening in India right now. In Europe, there's a discussion about let's work only 4 days a week. Okay? Because at the end of the goal, what is the goal of humanity? We want to have a nice time. We want to be happy. We don't want to work too much. Okay? So what technology will allow us to do, that's the idea, that's the aim, is to allow the cake to grow so much that we can work, each of us, only 3 days a week. Okay? And even at that point, there'll be demand for workers. No, you can work 3 days a week. You'll earn, you'll be a millionaire, but please come work 4 days a week because we don't have enough workers. That's the scenario I expect we will be. We'll be so prosperous that you will only need to work 3 days a week, and there will be excess demand for workers even 20, 30, 40 years from now. That's the scenario. Don't be worried. What I would say to you, Chetan, is that keep learning, develop an independent mindset, and develop, which I go back to academy. No, I'm not being biased. I'm objective. I have nothing. The academy instills this way to learn. You need to learn. I want each of you, when you come and take my class on micro, I'm going to teach it in a way that I'm going to give you, because there's no book that I can give you to learn how to learn. That is the tool. That tool of being able to learn how to learn is going to be the tool that is worth gold dust, precisely because of the point you made, that you might be in a job, let's say 20 years from now, and that job gets automated. Therefore, you need to be able to learn a new task, a new skill. And that is your century. It's an exciting century, but yet it's a little bit scary century. I agree. There are no jobs for life, but it's an exciting century. You can be someone. You can be the next Steve Jobs. Wouldn't you love that, Chetan, and become a billionaire? You're not answering me, Chetan. No?
Yes, sir. Yeah, of course.
So good luck. Don't worry about the job issue. Focus on keeping on learning and questioning. Ask questions. Ask why. One of the things, when I used to teach in India, not at the academy, and I've taught before several places, there was so much hunger and passion by the Indian students. And I was so sad that the teaching was more rote-based, memory and all that, because that's the system was, which, by the way, Modi's policy 2 years ago, he announced national education is changing. He wants more people engaging, interpreting, discussing, and challenging. That's what we need. More Indian youngsters challenging, because only when you challenge and ask, but why is that true? Will you then think for yourself? So that's where the action is, not in terms of, don't worry about the issue of jobs. As I said, at some point we'll be so wealthy, India will be so wealthy that it can feed all its citizens, and it can give you 3 days a week, working week. Wouldn't that be amazing? One day.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Okay. Your soon-to-be student, Shraddhesh of microeconomics, is asking, I think he's asking, will technology go all the way to that extent that it will spawn off a new branch of economics, such as we had classical economics and neoclassical? So he wants to know whether technology will actually prod economics to spawn off a separate branch of its own.
So, Amle, do you know if he's done economics before?
Let's ask him.
Ask him. But I was going to say, so, what's his name again?
Shraddhesh.
Shraddhesh, you're asking a good question. I was just asking, have you done economics before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, the reason why I asked that is because one of those of you who are interested in economics, and by the way, I want to say to all of you here, everyone, every citizen, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a physicist, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an engineer, should be interested and know some economics. It is a core subject. It should be a core. It's a subject about how to make good decisions, how to choose, and stuff like that. Your question, whether economics is needing disruption as well. The discipline of economics is moving slowly. That's how disciplines move. They move slowly in terms of change. But what is required? Again, I'm hoping that one of you will be that future Maynard Keynes. Maynard Keynes, for those of you not economics, was one of the big giants of the world, actually. After the World War II, there was a conference with Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt. The US, England, and Russia had a conference after World War II to decide on the rules of the game of the world order. And the brainchild behind setting up the rules that currently still exist, it was Maynard Keynes. And Maynard Keynes invented macroeconomics. That was a revolution in terms of thinking about economics. Shradesh, we're looking for the next Meghnad case. It could be you. And right now, we have some disciplines in economics where in macro and micro, we talk a little bit about how technology is impacting this and that, but it's still not, we're still too siloed. And hopefully, that's again, you come to the academy and it'll be the beginning of getting you to think how to bring in, what's happening in computer science with artificial intelligence to impact on how we design markets. Right now, for example, just give you a little example of your question. We don't know how to solve the climate crisis. If we talk to an economist, they say, well, put a carbon tax, put a tax on carbon, on petrol, right? And that is an instrument. That is a policy instrument that has some effect. But still, we need to think a more creative way. But to think creative way, we need to bring in computer scientists, technologists who can help. So do I see a future where economics is talking much more properly with people in technology, in data science, and computer? Yes. Is it happening now? Not in a way it should. That's why we need pioneers who will disrupt, who will show it how it's done. So I'm hoping that again, it's funny. One of the reasons I want to get involved more with Indian education, I want to see India producing over the next 20 years, the next Steve Jobs, the next Jeff Bezos. That's what India needs. And then we are off in the frontier. China simply has not produced. No country, even England, for the last 100 years, they're all coming out from Silicon Valley. Okay, next question. Thank you, Suresh. Great question. I look forward to seeing you later in the year.
Yeah. Okay, so Gauri
next question is what?
So Gauri is asking, with access to technology becoming open, meaning that with technology becoming ubiquitous and available to everybody, will that make competition cutthroat?
Yes, it may not be cutthroat. So the question, those of you just very different, is that as technology is more open, yeah, you can obviously there are lots of technologies and techniques which are secrets of companies. No one knows the Google's real algorithm. I think that's not in the open domain. By technology, I'm thinking about algorithms are secrets of the companies. Your internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. And so, but at the same time, absolutely, some technologies are open. So one of the great technologies, which is my big favorite for academic writing, for mathematical academic writing, is LaTeX. So I don't know how many of you use LaTeX. It's a typesetting technology that was invented by a computer scientist professor at Stanford, Silicon Valley again, about 25, 30 years ago. And economists took it on board. And that's open source. You can download it for free, okay? And the great thing about open source technologies is that through the competition, you improve it. Yeah, everyone across the world can try to improve it here and there. A bit like Wikipedia, right? Of course, there are, okay? And the market forces, the competition will help make sure that the improvements in the equilibrium in the end are the good ones. Because there will be a lot of silly improvements, bad improvements, but competition, one of the powers about competition is that it helps get technology, techniques, things better and better. Will it lead to cutthroat competition? Yeah, that's why what happens, some of the technologies are kept state secret, right? Google doesn't release its algorithm, how you search and all that. Otherwise, someone else might try to copy it. And of course, then they may be in the court where you copied my technology, and so no, I think that we should need to think about what should be open, what should not be open. Okay, that there's work to be done around that, and there are some economists who think about this. What's the right amount of openness or what kind of technologies? But there's still, we're still in a space where there's government in the EU, for example, European Union, for example, is struggling with this. What's the right regulatory framework, right? What's the right regulatory framework, like policies and laws around that? So again, it's open for discussion because we don't really it's going too fast. So indeed, I forget who asked that question. Good question. Keep thinking about it. No one knows the right answer. All I made some remarks around that question, which hopefully gets you thinking more about that question on the degree of openness of technologies.
Yeah, if I may add my 2 bits to Gauri's question. I think sometimes in India, because maybe we still have closed minds, the moment somebody says competition, the adjective that comes to mind is cutthroat. Competition does not have to be cutthroat. But I think we subject ourselves to cutthroat competition when we use.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I think I had lost connection. Say again.
I think it may be a cultural thing. Sometimes in India, when the word competition comes up, the adjective cutthroat comes along with it naturally. I think we will face cutthroat competition if we use technology to copy somebody else's ideas. I mean, if I use technology to try and sell shirts and trousers on the internet, then I'm going to make hopeless margins and I'm going to have a lot of competition. But, you know, Dr. Hal Varian, the chief economist of Google, he has given advice to students that, you know, think of something that is ubiquitous and cheap, and then think of services around that which are scarce and complementary, which he says what is ubiquitous and cheap is data. So data analysis is scarce and complementary. So learn those skills. So I think if we use technology to solve problems which need to be solved, but nobody seems to be solving, then we should not really be facing competition. So I think that's how we need to look at it. If we use technology and then try to copy something that somebody else is doing, then we will impose cutthroat competition on ourselves. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point by Hal Varian, who is the chief economist of Google. I think the controls will be there. We need to think about controls because, in some sense, you know, one of the students here invents something fantastic. You know, that's what the patent laws exist across the world. Some provide protection for 50 years or 20 years. You get some people can't copy it, or at least some aspect of it. So that's what patent is, to give you incentives to put the effort in. At the same time, as Varian points out, some bits which can go open source. So that's why the debate around, you know, having some protection for something you invent needs to be there to incentivize you to put the effort in and time in to invent something which would be very useful. But all I was saying, you know, we need to, as people, keep on looking at new ways to do stuff. We've got one more. I can see one other question.
Yeah. So Rishabh Gupta is asking us, does decentralization of technology make it a risky and unstable world? I do believe actually he means to say, does democratization of technology, making it available to everybody, make it a risky and unstable world?
Yeah, that's a very good question about that. You know, in the end of this, so first of all, answer to your question is that we don't really know. What you're saying has some merit, I think, and it probably it touches on the point I made earlier on about the worries about technology. And we need to think more about it. And having thought more about your question, one can then think about policy, regulations, and laws to try to mitigate against those risks. So definitely an area of study. Definitely something we don't know, because when I say we don't know, it's to do with the new technologies, especially the AI technologies that are coming about. How will you control them? So even if you identify a risk, how do you control them? You know, there was someone telling me about this example. Someone telling me, look, mobile phones. Youngsters are looking at using mobile phones and spending all the time on the mobile phones, and it's bad for their development and so on and so forth. And I said there is that side of things. I can see that risk. In terms of what kind of youngsters we're producing. What's the solution? I mean, do we ban it for under 15-year-old, under 14-year-old? I'm not sure that's a blunt instrument. So absolutely great question. There are risks. We need to think about it, and we need to think about how to control it, how to mitigate it. You can't really completely control it because you don't want to ban. You see, the thing is that we want to, at the end of the day, and you can't ban it. You know, a lone inventor in a garage is going to have human beings have this urge to invent, to create, to do stuff. No power except God can stop them. Absolutely no. And therefore, we have to recognize that fact of human beings, that urge to not be constrained. And we just need to find ways to, you know, channel that in good ways to mitigate the risks. So, direct answer to your question, are there such risks? Yes. How dangerous are they? some could be quite dangerous. We need to think about how to control them. And already, there are laws controlling some of these risks. The security services, for example, across the world will make sure that, anyone bad thinking of using technology is dealt with, and intelligence services. So that's already there. We are aware that decentralization and democratization of technologies produces those bad stuff, and we need to deal with it.
So, Rishabh, if I may also try to answer your question, my answer is a firm no. And I won't even go into the logic of it, but please understand that a couple of 1,000 years ago, in old civilization like ours, the same question was asked about knowledge. If we make knowledge freely available, will it lead to an unstable society? We know what the answer to that is today. No. And hence, by analogy, I think technology should be democratized. It should be made available to everybody. And if we use it to make the world a risky and unstable place, then the blame will be on us, not on technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got some more questions. I think I can.
Donald Mangubat is asking a fairly detailed question. Okay. So I'm going to try and allow him to speak. Otherwise, I'll read it out. Donald, go ahead.
Donald, you're on mute. You're on mute. You got to unmute yourself, Donald.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. So he's asking, how should governments address usage of technology? Because people are now more dependent on technology. And as we all know, technology has to face that sometimes good and may create crime chaos. So basically, he's asking that, I think it's a corollary question to Rishabh's question. So Donald also seems to be worried about, the destabilization that technology can do. And he's actually asking how government should regulate and address it.
Listen, Donald, you're asking a great question. Just to give you real examples, I'm sure you give me examples from Indian context. The US 2016 elections, people are quite clear. They have evidence to show that there was Russian interference in the US election outcomes through the use of technology of various kinds. The Brexit vote in England, which has disrupted England and the EU, again, people are saying that, and there's some evidence that it was the bad sides of technology that allowed. If there wasn't that technologies weren't available, it wouldn't have happened. So I'll give you two examples. I'm sure you can give me many other examples of how technology or access to technologies of various kinds have allowed bad stuff to happen and is happening across the globe. I'm later on this. We need to deal with that. We need to deal with that. We cannot, so the response is not therefore not to democratize. The response is not therefore to shut it down and be poor. We need, as a human society, to deal and face the downside. This is throughout human history. That's why I was good at throughout human history. Every move, the moment we came out of the cave, the lion was there. So should we just stay in the bloody cave and not progress? So there are risks with this thing, like there are risks with everything else. I mean, Donald, and I know who was asked before, we as Indians need to take more risks. The reason why the Americans are a $20 trillion economy is because they take more risks. It is about risk taking. So it allows me to make that point. It is risk taking. And I think the problem, I don't know why aren't there enough Indians taking more risks? Is it a cultural thing? That's another question. Or what is it? Is it environment? Is it education? So I'll leave that question hanging for you guys. You can tell me when I see you in the year, but that's the big question. If we can answer the question, how do we create an environment? The academy, I know, is fosters for young students to take risks in their thinking. Okay, it's taking risks in thinking. When you think big, think in a crazy in a good way, then you start becoming and inventing. Yeah, the downside is that 8 out of 10 times you're going to fail. You're going to fail big, but 2 out of 10 times you hit the jackpot. You are the next Steve Jobs of India. In a similar way, I hope I drove my point home, which is Amlesh's point. Oh, we got to take the risks. There's no ifs and buts about it. Yes, we got to find ways to mitigate those consequences, the bad consequences of those risks. Yeah, we've got to mitigate. And we will do that through laws, through police, blah, blah, blah. But we can't not proceed because of those risks. I hope that helps answer, Donald. You need to help. You need to think about how do you mitigate the risks? What kind of risks are there, and so on. So I'll leave that hanging there. Yeah, no, we need to take more risks. Absolutely.
So I'll ask a question of my own. Okay. Now, having spent 34 years in the world of technology, I am absolutely enamored by the technology, the blockchain technology. Okay. But its most famous application is Bitcoins. And I see most of my economist friends are extremely skeptical about Bitcoin as an economic entity. So how do you look at Bitcoin as an economist? And if you are aware of the experiment that El Salvador made with Bitcoin, that would really help, if we got a perspective.
Really great question, bringing it back to do with money, right? So when people, again, just to make the point in context for all the participants, as many are not economists, one important mechanism for bringing prosperity is to allow human beings to trade, okay? You do something good, you're good at something, someone else good at something else, and then you do that stuff and you trade. That's how the world prospers throughout human history. But trade requires some medium of exchange, and that's money. And over the centuries, it's moved from coin money to now paper money, and already hardly anyone carries cash, at least in Europe. It's all digital money. So the technology of blockchain is great stuff. So the blockchain, I think, is a technology that has been developed over the last many decades. But one has to use that technology or blockchain technology to then produce digital currency. And Bitcoin, some other cryptocurrencies, at the moment they're not really in the mainstream digital currency. There are different countries. El Salvador is the one country that adopted it a few years ago. And I think so my answer, that's the context. And the answer is that I see, it's the same spirit of everything I've said so far, is that I see one day we will have a digital currency that is accepted not just by a few people in the private area, but by governments. So the thing about the currency, as rupees, dollars, these are government-backed paper money. At some point, the United States, India, and so on, these major economies will slowly, in a transition way, move from rupee to a digital currency, and then you will see the beginnings of a transformation. At the moment, I don't know the details, so about why is it that, what is wrong with Bitcoins, what is wrong with other digital currencies. So I don't know the details to tell you, it's due with the fact that, what I know is that other than little El Salvador and some other country, I think in the Pacific, no major economy, no major central bank has at this point in time adopted a digital currency with which to trade. But it's coming. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I know what I think more than I said. I
would also urge our young students to also read a bit about the energy consumption of networks like Bitcoin. And to just give you an idea, I read an article which compared energy usage. So it seems that in the current state of technology, the amount of energy consumed by 200 million credit card transactions is equal to the amount of energy consumed by a few thousand Bitcoin transactions. And both of these are equal to the amount of energy spent by a wide-bodied aircraft to complete a transatlantic flight. So energy consumption of Bitcoin and in general blockchain transactions is something that students of economics, and all youth should really be reading about. Because
absolutely.
That's something that is evolving.
I was aware of this. I didn't know. Absolutely. The energy consumption of this technology is going to be hugely relevant in the economic calculus of which way you go. That's why we need to improve on the energy, the technology, the energy consumption before we maybe that's a factor in why it's not happening right now. But yeah, so these are relevant considerations which economists don't know about, technologists know about. That's why economists, social scientists need to talk more and more with the technologists, with the computer scientists, and others. I see, by the way, just to as we're coming to the end, and this is really relevant for the youngsters here. You know, over the last 70 years, my world, Amlesh's world, it was very siloed, very disciplinary. I think over the next 100 years, discipline, being grounded in a discipline or two is going to be important. But we have to also, you have to also be much more than we were, generalists and looking at other disciplines. And I see that, you know, you youngsters need to therefore read more broadly than I had to. But that's exciting stuff. It might be challenging. It means you read more. I mean, that's going to be the future in terms of even your employment and so on. Amlesh, back to you.
Yeah, I think we are past our time, and I don't see any more questions. So, you know, one of those few webinars which we have completed extremely optimally, you know. So I would firstly like to thank all our attendees for turning up and some really nice questions which led to an interesting discussion. And again, Abhinay, thank you so much for being here. And I really look forward to meeting you on the ground in November when you are here to teach the microeconomics course. And Shraddhesh, Aditi, and the rest who are going to be in Abhinay's class, get ready, because it's going to be an exciting and a very, very busy November for you. I see Satviki. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very busy November for you. But I've discussed the details of the course with Abhinav. It's going to be an exciting time. I see Sakshi too, Rutvij. Yeah, all your students, a lot of your students are here. So
well, I really enjoyed this conversation with you all who are here. Whenever I come and teach in India, what I love about the Indian students compared to, in a relative sense, compared to the English students here in the UK, is the hunger and the passion. And I want to leverage that for your future, for your good, by bringing my insights and my approach to teaching and learning. And so it's an exciting opportunity for me as well to teach with you guys. I'm ready to go. I hope all of you are going to turn up. Even some of you now are in your final years, so maybe you can't come, but maybe Amlesh might there might be one or two opportunities to engage. But really look forward to engaging with you all. Thanks for being here tonight, this afternoon. Excellent questions, Amlesh. These are more questions than answers, by the way. You're going to provide the answers over the next 20 years. I'm sure you will.
Yeah. So Shraddhesh, Aditi, and gang, let your hair down. Have fun, because things are going to get really busy for you from 17th of August. The formal schedule will come to you. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. I'm now going to end the webinar. Thank you very much.
Amlesh, take care. We'll see you soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.